So the new Abyss just came out, and I don't really know if this is the 5.1 or 5.2 Abyss, but we're just gonna roll with it. So quickly, disclaimer, reset whenever you want if you find it difficult to clear certain chambers. Try out different teams and swap things around, and maybe you'll eventually get that clear and that 36 star. Number 2. My characters are highly invested, so don't feel disappointed that you can't clear with the exact same lineup, since everyone has different levels of investment for their accounts, so their success of employing these strategies will differ per person basis. And lastly, as I am made aware of Sevy's hiatus upon the previous guide video, I will try to emulate future guide videos for Spiral Abyss and Imaginum Theatre following a similar format, and starting off from this video, I will be showing clears running 4-star characters only. Now let's start off with floor 11. So floor 11 chamber 1 is actually quite unique. The first half, they actually remove the monolith. So all you have to do is kill 3 waves of 2 people with a total of 6 people. So there's no real special strategy here. If you want to use Beidou here because they spawn in waves of 2 and you have Consolation too, this is especially great to employ that character. Now for the second half, we have the Cryo Lava Chill and then the Flying Ruin Guard. Preferably, you can bring Pyro to shred the Cryo Shield, otherwise it will have very high resistance and take way less damage, but it is not necessary. After you do the Cryo Lava Chill, you can preferably use a bow character to shoot down the weak points to bring the Ruin Guard down. But once again, it is flying relatively low, so your melee characters will hit it to a certain extent, so it's not necessary, but it will make your life easy. Otherwise, we'll move to Chamber 2. Now, Chamber 2 also has nothing special, although the Xuanwen Beasts, aka the Tigers from Chenyu Vale, have relatively high Anemo and Hydro resistance. So what you can do is that they have a mechanic where if you were to freeze them and then you trigger Shatter, it will actually paralyze them for a short period of time. Otherwise, it is also pretty straightforward, just do a little bit, do some damage, and we'll move on to the second half. So for the second half, we have the Jade Plume Terrace Room. The mechanics, I think most people are familiar with this by now. He's only in floor 11 and not floor 12, so the HP and the damage is much lower than it is before. Of course, you can use Electro to build up the bar, it'll do a big move, and he'll be stunned for a long time, losing a lot of resistance, but it is not necessary unless you have much lower investment in your characters. Otherwise, straightforward kill, and then we'll move on to Chamber 3. So Chamber 3, the first half, we do have Ruin Grader and the Geowayop. The Ruin Grader, we're all used to him by now, nothing much, nothing special. If it does a stomp move, you can hit its weak points to stun it, otherwise just do damage and we move on to the second enemy. So the Geowayop will start with its special move where it will drain all your energy. And what you need to do to break this is to hit the shield a number of times in order to stun it. After it gets stunned, you will gain all your energy back enough for you to use your elemental burst. If you are unable to break the shield in time, it will unleash a big attack and gain a Geo Shield. So for him, you don't really need to bring Geo here. Just use characters that are not very reliant on burst, or what you can do is use your burst before you kill the Grader so you can actually continue on for the Wayop and just break the shield. So yeah, that's all the strategy you have to do. Once it's done, do damage, kill it, and we move on to the second half. So the second half, we have the return of the Primordial Geo V-Shap, and this particular one is the Cryo variant. It has high cryo and geo resistance, so ideally you don't really want to bring these elements here unless you have very high resistance shred characters. For this particular move, you can either bring a cryo or a geo shield to counter this primordial shower, of which if it does the move and you have the shield, it will get staggered, lose a lot of health and lose a lot of resistance in that short 5-second period. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward, just do damage, and if you're running Circle Impact, be mindful because it does have a big hitbox and his attacks are very wide. So what you can do is you probably can go behind him so that you can minimize the amount of movement he makes, especially if you are playing a Circle Impact team. And then we move on to floor 12. So for Chamber 1, for the first half, we have the Consecrated Crocodile. Now, you can do edge baiting and run all the way back to make it easier for you to deal with the second wave, but it does take about 10 seconds because it needs about 5 seconds to activate its buff mode, which for some, maybe if you're not running a Circle Impact team, you can just go straight forward to just kill it, but otherwise you can also do edge baiting if you really appreciate the grouping a bit. It's not necessary, but it's entirely up to whatever team you run. It will move a lot, so honestly edge baiting here will help quite a bit against these Consecrated beasts because their movements are very wide, they go a lot. So this time if you go to the edge, you want it to be facing you towards a corner so that every hit it does, it will go to you regardless. Of course, there's the big move with the crocodile, hit it with elements and then hit him again, to lose a lot of HP, be stunned for 10 seconds and lose all its buff resistance. But after you take care of him, we'll go to the second wave, which is the Eroding Lava. You can hit them both preferably, so characters like Sethos or Koran or Beidou is particularly nice in this part. And the only other mechanic is that there is a bar above its head, which you can build up with pyro hits. If you're able to fill that bar, it will lead to an insta-kill. However, this generally rarely happens because it will probably be dead before you even build up that bar in the first place. And otherwise, we'll move on to the second half. So for the second half, we do have the two Tepilosaurs. If you can try to bait them nearer towards the middle, it will save you a little bit of time, though it's not going to be much because the experimental field generator afterwards is going to take a bit of time to spawn, so there's no real strategy for this part. And then we have the experimental field generator. It will start off with the Geo Wave attack. You can disable this if you hit it with characters that can inflict Pneuma, although the Pneuma attack is on a cooldown, so it's not very reliable. Otherwise, you can just jump. You do have like very high gravity here, so you can dodge by jumping, and the rest is straightforward, do lots of damage, kill it in time, and then we move on to Chamber 2. Now, the first half, we do have the Consecrated Tiger, has very high dendro resistance, and just like the Crocodile, although I would say he's more aggressive, he will be moving a lot. You could opt to do edge baiting, like the same thing you did with the Crocodile. However, from the runs that I've tried, he's not going to move 3 miles away unlike the Crocodile, so if you're able to really play around his moves and you understand his moveset, I would highly recommend you to really just fight him and start the fight immediately, and just play around his moveset. Rinse and repeat, there's that big move with every consecrated creature, just hit it with Dendro or any elemental attacks, and then you can get the stun and big damage, but the rest is pretty straightforward. And then the second enemy we have is the new Natlan robot. It starts off with very high boosted resistance, so there is a bar above his head which you can fill up if you hit it with Night Soul attacks. Once you fill it up, it will stun him and it will reduce his resistance. But Natlan is still new, so we don't have that many characters that can consistently build up the bar. Otherwise, just brute force him. His attacks do a lot of damage, but it's very much telegraphed, so it's very easy to dodge. So the second half, we have the Aeon Blight Drake. Now, this is the part where I say you absolutely must bring a bow character because you're not going to have a good time otherwise. So it's going to start off with like very high resistance when it wakes up. It's going to fly up, shoot these two wings right here, and he will fall down. He can also do this move. You can hit the center of its chest. Either way works, just hit a weak point so that it stays grounded. And then once it's grounded, just rinse and repeat, 2 damage, and we'll mostly be done and we can move on to Chamber 3. And before we go there, he does have this one move where it charges up, hit his face in order to stun it, and prevent him from gaining the resistance buff. Otherwise, it's straightforward. And then we go to Chamber 3. So the first half, you start off with the 2 fluids of lava. They are permanently pyro infused, so triggering reactions like vape is extremely easy. And this one you might have to reset a few times, but what you can do once again is edge bait by running all the way to the back of the chamber. Doing so will cause them to teleport right on you, which allows you to really control the position and make it easy to take care of both of them at the same time. Of course, this may fail a few times, so feel free to reset until you can get it right. And these enemies are a little bit hard to control their position since they do tend to teleport a lot, so it will get frustrating for some of you guys. After that, we have one Geo Aramite. It has boosted Geo Res, but less physical in its special state. It will summon this Geo Crocodile. Try to prioritize hitting the Crocodile first in order to do lots of damage to it, stun him, and reduce his resistance. Otherwise, pretty straightforward, and we move on to the second half. Now for the last enemy, we have the Hydro Talpa. It's permanently Hydro infused, so once again, easy vaporize. Now, watch out for his attacks because most of them do a lot of damage, so unless you have a good enough skill to dodge every single one, which is not that difficult because his moves is telegraph, you should definitely be careful. Even more so if you are playing Circle Impact with Bennettverse, because every hit he does will trigger Vape on you, which might actually get you killed in literally a single hit. Now, the only mechanic he has is the absorption. He will do this move, I'll try to charge up and absorb any little Talpas around it. Hit the mini Talpa with any elemental attacks, any elemental reaction for Hydro, not Hydro itself, to kill the mini Talpa and prevent the charge up from finishing. Because otherwise, he'll turn super massive, he'll have bigger AoE and do much more damage, and you do not want that. So when you start off the chamber, he won't really move for the first few moves until he spawns one mini topper, and then whenever that happens, he will try to move next to that topper whenever possible. So keep that in mind if you run Circle Impact. Or alternatively, I've done a bit of testing, you can try to just kill every mini topper when it's still at the center so that it will prevent him from going anywhere. So try to keep an eye out for those little guys if you really want to have a good time not dealing with him zooming halfway across the map. Otherwise, I think that's it for the guide video, and here are the builds for every single one of my characters. Personally, I did find this a little bit difficult to run the 4-star only team, so I had to actually swap a few artifacts around and use my better stuff and swap a few weapons in order to ensure that I can get the 36-star clear to show you guys that it is very much possible to clear this Spiral Abyss. And once again, you're very high invested, so don't feel disappointed if you can't achieve the same level of performance. Eventually, you'll get there with enough time, investment, and mostly a whole lot of luck. As long as you can clear the floors, you'll at least get some rewards. And alternatively, you can also make it your goal or your final hurdle to slowly but surely consistently get 36 stars on the Spiral Abyss. Otherwise, that's it for the guide video. If you guys have any sort of questions, any sort of problems that you are dealing with, feel free to leave a comment down below. Otherwise, that's it for the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.